Greetings, everybody. It certainly would appear that I am here, I am now, and I am live on the Facebook. That statement is accurate as of Wednesday, March 18th. Make that 19th. March 19th, 2025 at 7:03 p.m., which means it's already inaccurate because that exact moment has come and gone as time keeps on slipping into the future. But hey, it's the internet. We're mellow about this kind of stuff. Who cares what time it is? The fact of the matter is that this is this week's episode of Tent Talks Tunes. And whether you're watching it live on Facebook or archived forever, so they say, on YouTube, it's here, it's now, it's wow, Charlie, and we are rocking and rolling and reeling and stealing and getting ready to do some rhyming and spieling. We see that Alan Versapellis, as is his tradition, is the first one in. Hello, Alan, good to see you. Mr. James Pogo, a man who has impeccable taste in music and art. James Pogo, do you have a link to any of your visual art? Because I really like your visual art. I think it's really cool, and I think that people need to know about it. So if you got a link, if you got a website or an Etsy or who knows what, wherever you young kids display your arts these days, I want to see it. I want to see the link, and I think other people would like to see your artwork as well, because James Pogo is a band. He's in a band called the Arm Delight Rifles, who are dynamite, and his artistic sensibility is also dynamite. I say that because I believe in it. Mike Lesser from Vancouver, BC says, hello, new North Carolina resident. Yes, sir, it is good to be here. I've been in North Carolina now for almost 2 months. I think almost exactly 2 months at this point. And I'm digging it. I'm digging it. I like my new home here in Newton, Connecticut. I went from Newton, Connecticut. I just said that, didn't I? I went from Newtown, Connecticut to Newton, North Carolina, and it is a groovy little pad I got here. The same old backdrop as always, the familiar Tent Talks Tunes cable TV ready backdrop is still in place, but behind me you would be seeing my living room, which is completely kitted out just like a bona fide record store. It's got 4 banquet tables, each one laden with crates of records, all browsable, all searchable, quite a few of them priced, not all of them. In fact, not even close to all of them. A percentage of them priced, but all ready to go. So when I start doing my vending activities here in North Carolina, doing whatever record shows there are, whatever hipster flea markets there are, whatever cool-ass swap meets there are, or whatever punk rock gigs there are where I can do distro, everything is literally at my fingertips. I can just pick and pull and price and put out and take it on the road for all my frantic fans, loyal customers, and vivacious viewers out there in the so-called real world. Hello, Kyle. Thanks for tuning in, and indeed, all is well, man. All is well. Not only do I have my browsable regular store inventory just a few feet behind me, but also over there on that wall in my living room are shelves that are getting to be chock full of my Discogs inventory. Oh yes, the Discogs store has been down for quite a few months now because of the monumental move from Newtown to Newton. But I'm getting it all together. All the full-length LPs, the 7-inch singles, the compact discs, the cassettes, the VHSs, the reel-to-reels, the 8-tracks, all the stuff that I normally have listed on my Discogs store is getting sorted out, getting put out, and getting ready for business. So as always, I will let you people know when I'm ready to go. Of course, in the meantime, I do invite you to check out my Discogs, my eBay, my Bandcamp. It's all under the name of TPOS, as the mysterious masked wrestler is thoughtfully and helpfully pointing out to you. TPOS. Dig the logo on the front of his mask. You don't know who's inside that mask, but you know that TPOS is on the outside of that mask, and TPOS is indeed the modern day trademark of quality for fine and coarse music. Yes, that's the move, guys. The move continues steadily. And that, of course, begs the issue of mail. I am still taking mail at the old address, TPOS, Malcolm Tent, Trash American Style, P.O. Box 3626, Newtown, Connecticut, 06470. The mail is being forwarded to me, and it seems that it is indeed getting to me. As far as I know, everything that anybody has sent to me has been successfully forwarded. So until the old P.O. Box expires, which I think is going to be in about a month or two, I'm still taking mail at that address. After that, you will see a P.O. Box in Newton, North Carolina. And that's when you'll know for sure that I really am a permanent North Carolinian. So all is exciting, all is well. So yeah, let's check out the usual things that we check out. We got the bulletin board, we got the mailbox. The bulletin board, as always, has got some cool events listed on it, tacked up for all to see. Even if the res ain't too high or the lighting ain't too good, I'll tell you all about it. Would it be an episode of Tent Talks Tunes if I did not relentlessly, ruthlessly, reprehensibly, yet completely unrepentantly tell you about anti-scenes, current comings and goings, doings and brewings? Well, you're right, it wouldn't be. So it is now, because I'm going to tell you about two very exciting shows we've got coming up north of the Mason-Dixon line. Whoa, it doesn't happen too often, but it is happening in April. And here's all the information about it. I got my dollar store cheaters. They're $1.50 now. They're $1.50 now. They used to be $1. Now they're $1.50. And inflation is evil. But I can see, and that's all that really matters. I can see the flyer for our show April 17th at the West Side Bowl in Youngstown, Ohio. Anti-scene with Pill Time. If I'm not mistaken, Pill Time is one of the many bands featuring the nefarious yet wacky talents of Mr. Poopy Necropond. Poopy, primarily of Sockeye. If any of you folks out there know about Sockeye and their relentless barrage of ridiculous noise, then you know who Poopy Necropond is. And Poopy is one of those guys who is just like non-stop creativity in motion, in action all the time. I couldn't even tell you how many bands this guy's got. And what's scary is that they're all good. They're all either really good or completely insane or a nice healthy mixture of both. So Pill Time, I don't know anything about them other than Poopy Necropond is in the band, which makes me look forward to playing with them very much. And West Side Bowl, love the West Side Bowl. It's a great venue. We played a gig there about a year ago. You're actually playing in a bowling alley on top of bowling lanes that have been rehabbed into a stage setup. So it's like, if you're here at the West Side Bowl, you've got the lanes that have been turned into a stage here, and then to your right, active bowling lanes where people are bowling while you play your music. And of course, they've got the snack bar and the drink bar. They've got a record store. I found the staff to be just super cool and helpful. They had food I could eat at the bar. I mean, come on. What's not to love about it? So I'm stoked and geared and all fired up to play West Side Bowl April 17th with Pill Time. April 18th, we did have a gig in Cleveland, Ohio. And I'm referring to that in the past tense because it looks like that's not happening. There was some kind of imbroglio at the venue. I'm not exactly sure what, and we haven't heard 100%, but it seems like Cleveland's not happening. So that day, the 18th, will probably just be a travel day for us, which means we will be rested, relaxed, refreshed, and completely regressed and ready for the next gig, April 19th at Studio 67 in Medford, New Jersey. And that's going to be a very interesting show because our super duper fan, Amy Nicoletto, who is the owner and creative guiding light of the Order of Sacred Crow Tattoo, is promoting this show because she is a fan of Anti-Scene. And we're the only band on the bill. It's us. We are doing a super Broadway. No support act. No closing act. It's us, us, and us. So we're going to do our regular set, and rumor has it that there's going to be some extras. Rumor has it it's going to be an extra long set that day. I don't know if it's going to be like a full-blown People's Choice scenario. The People's Choice being where we played all requests. But there's definitely something blowing in the wind that suggests that there will be a sort of tailored set. Probably songs in addition to our regular set. That's what I'm guessing. So if you want to see something unique in the already unique, storied annals of Anti-Scene, you do owe it to yourself to get to Medford, New Jersey on April 19th at Club 67. Did I get that right? Studio 67. I'm a smart guy. And then after that, we drive back home to North Kakalaka, where I've set up my tent. Ha ha ha, clever pun, right? And we'll be ready for the next round of action with Anti-Scene. And I keep forgetting I'm playing a gig with Clayton and Wenzel. I'm doing a Clayton Wenzel show. That is the gospel music side project of Mr. Jeff Clayton and Mr. Steve Wenzel. For some reason, I don't have a flyer for that. What is the date on that? If I grab my calendar here, I'll tell you guys. That's going to be at the most excellent retail shop, the Kingdom Corner. The Kingdom Corner in Mount Pleasant, North Carolina. I've never been there, but judging by their voluminous posts, it's the kind of place I could get lost in and maybe spend a couple of dollars in. We try not to, but you know what? They're cool guys. Run by Steve Wenzel and my honorable bass-playing ancestor in Anti-Scene, Mr. Trip McNeil. So if you want to have the rare occasion of having not one, but two Anti-Scene bass alum in one exciting spot, come down to Kingdom Corner. That is going to be, when is it? April 26th. April 26th, a Saturday. April 26th. Clayton and Wenzel with me on acoustic guitar at the Kingdom Corner. And we have Ms. Christy Hancock, who is going to be doing vocals with us. One of the Destructo Divas is tuned in. Hello, Ms. Hancock. She's going to sing with us, and I think it's going to be really, really cool. Early show, too. It's, I believe, noon start. As the days go by and I get my act more together, I'll have a flyer and more information for you. But that's going to be a cool one. That's the kind of gig I really like because it's sort of outside my normal wheelhouse. And I do love to push the envelope musically and creatively. And that's a pretty good way to do it. So I'm excited. Boy, people are tuning in. People have questions. Mark Fox says, do I still have a copy, reel-to-reel, of Charles Manson Lie? Yes, I do. Mark, either contact me directly or go to my handy-dandy Discogs store, and you can get yourself a 5-inch reel of tape of the most fascinating Charles Manson album recorded in 1967 and 1968. Whatever your opinion is of the guy, he was a critical cultural figure, not only in American culture, but in world culture as well. And his music is nothing else if not really interesting and in some cases really good. So take that for what it is. Make what you will of it. But yes, I've got a bunch of his releases on my label, TPOS, including the reel-to-reel tape of Lie. So, Mark, the answer is yes. Let me know. We'll make it happen. Walt Wheat says there's some kind of feud between the bar and the promoter in Cleveland. Nothing new there. My friend John Herbin from Tucson, Arizona says, yo, yo. James Pogo says, where is Medford, New Jersey? Medford is actually right outside of Philly. I would say that Medford probably qualifies as a as a Philly suburb, because you've got that whole cluster of South Jersey and Northeast Pennsylvania where Philly is, and I think Medford is like right over the river from Philly, so it's not far at all. So if any of you people are out there in the Philly area, this is your chance to do it, because Philly has traditionally been a strong anti-scene town, which means that the suburbs must traditionally be strong anti-scene suburbs. And we're going to rock. We're going to rock. It's going to be awesome. And I think that wraps up current events. Let's check the mailbox, shall we? If you people are like me, you love getting mail. And if I'm like me, I love to share it with all you people out there. This is from my pal Stan Bowman in Missouri. And Stan told me he was going to be sending this to me. Stan is also involved in the whole Poopy Necropond nexus of wild, wacky, wonderful bands. And this relates to the video presentation I did a few weeks ago, the deep dive into the psychology of G.G. Allin. And that video has gotten a lot of looks and a lot of really good and interesting comments. A lot of substantial dialogue has resulted because of that, and that's great. That is exactly what I wanted to happen. So I did a 2-hour presentation about the psychology of G.G. Allin. It's on my YouTube channel. Please look it up if you're interested in that. And Stan sent me some printed matter relating to that, an actual printed article written by him relating to the psychology of G.G. Allin. So Stan, thank you very much. Thank you for the printed matter. Thank you also for the latest issue of Ear of Corn, and for keeping true printed hard copy media alive, and giving me something to look forward to when I open my mail. And on the rare occasion that I have something to send in return, I get to send something in return to you. So I will definitely be checking this out. Very, very cool. Joey Corman says he's never heard of this Malcolm kid, but he has some wonderful friends. You know, Joey, I do. I've got some very wonderful friends. And I am very happy and grateful to all of you guys, because it's because of you that I'm able to lead the lifestyle that I've become accustomed to leading, which is rock and roll. Rock and roll. I will raise a big old jug of Newton Tap to that. Ah, delicious and refreshing. All right, what else do we got here? This is an interesting package. Judging by the size and shape of it, it's probably a CD. It's from PUM, care of Ellis, in Lindale, Texas. I don't know what this is. I genuinely, honestly don't know what this is. You can see it's completely sealed. This is not a Geraldo Rivera work. This is an honest-to-gosh opening of a package live here on Tent Talks Tunes and archived forever on my YouTube channel. We got the 2 mile scissors here. So we're going to carefully open this up and see what's in there. Oh, you know what? I think it's cassettes, actually. I don't think it's a CD. I think it's cassettes. CDs don't sound like that. CDs are okay. I've grown to love CDs in the last 10 or 11 years or so. Now that they are easy to have manufactured and are affordable, I've gotten to like CDs quite a bit. But cassettes, ooh, I love cassettes. I've always loved cassettes. A great populist medium, cassettes. So let's see what we got here. Oh, I see. Right, it's a cassette. We've got some fancy shaped sticker here with an extremely punk rock slogan on it. A genuine patch. And what do you know? There you go. Blanket of M. There they are again, those guys. Blanket of M, with which certainly appears to be a brand new cassette. And a genuine, honest to gosh, handwritten note. All right, there we go. Some guy named Joey, huh? What does that mean? Joey? Must be coincidence. Blanket of M. That's a fine looking cassette. Love that. Love the color, love the label, great color scheme. Punk rock to the max. Blanket of M. All right, thank you so very much. I will be checking this out on one of these several cassette decks I have stacked up to my left. One of which is not the brand new one I just bought off of eBay, which I plugged into the electrical outlet, and which commenced to make a mysterious humming sound and then completely went poof. So return, return, return. Cassettes really are a pain. I don't know how many cassette decks I've gone through in the past, it's about 11 years. I started doing cassettes again in earnest back around 2013. And I've probably burned through 25 or 30 cassettes, cassette decks, I should say, during that time. I keep burning the motors out because, you know, TPOS, my fabulous label, is built on a foundation of cassette releases. And I make them all in real time using real cassette decks, home cassette decks. And I burn the motors out. And apparently there's only one company in the universe making brand new cassette decks. They're called Pyle, P-Y-L-E. And I've heard good things about them, but I'll tell you, this one brand new P-Y-L-E cassette deck I bought lasted about 14 seconds before it crapped out. So, I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm a little bit miffed about that. Here's something from Derek in Chicago, Illinois. Derek has a strange assortment of postcards here, depicting some random images. And it's a little bit dark in here, and I only have my specs. Oh, right. This is cool. This is cool. My pal Derek, he saw a post. Yes. Derek saw a post that I made on the SST Records fan page on Facebook. And this is something that I could do an entire episode of Tent Talks Tunes about, because I found a letter, an old promo, not letter, but an old promo flyer from Sub Pop talking about how they were big boosters of Soundgarden. We all know Soundgarden, the band, right? They were still great big boosters of Soundgarden, even though Soundgarden was about to sign to SST, and that after that, they were going to sign to A&M. They just laid out Soundgarden's entire fake indie marketing campaign on paper. They say point blank, Soundgarden is on Sub Pop. Their next album will be on SST. Their album after that will be on A&M. Plain and simple. Which makes you wonder if SST used all that money that they no doubt got from A&M to pay for all of those corporate rock sucks stickers. They certainly didn't use it to pay any royalties to their artists. That's been pretty well documented. But I just thought it was really, really, really funny that for a label to take such a rabid anti-corporate stance, so much as to make probably 1 million of those stickers to be part of a corporate major label marketing plan for one of their groups. I just thought that was interesting. Anyway, my pal Derek from Chicago read that and said, hey, I used to work at Sub Pop. Loved the letter. Can I send you a couple of genuine Sub Pop envelopes in return for a scan of that letter? I said, please do, because I love artifacts like this. I love ephemera like this. I'm a collector. I'm a collector. I admit it. Always have been. Always will be. And these are easy to collect because they're extremely lightweight, very portable, don't take up any room. Thank you, Derek. and also for the random selection of bizarre postcards. Oh, yes. My old pal Mike Feinson is tuned in. Mike from Brookfield, Connecticut. I don't know Mike, where are you living now? Baltimore or something like that? Mike was the bass player of one of the original Fairfield County straight edge bands called Aware. Back in the day, it was Wide Awake and Aware. They were the two basic, they're in cahoots with each other, but kind of rivals. And Mike was a bass player for Aware. And hello, Mike. And he says, speaking of Images, ha ha ha, am I going to go to the Images reunion? No, I am not. There is a reunion taking place in, I think, Connecticut. Mike Feinstein says he's in D.C. All right. So will I be going to the Images reunion? No, because I live in North Carolina now, and it's just a little bit too far. But Images was like the teenage disco in Brewster, New York, and my good pal Liz Davis, is having a reunion for all the new wave pre-teen crowd who used to go to Images. Or maybe I'm thinking of the Boardwalk. Actually, Images was the 21 and over club. Never mind. It's a reunion of the old new wavers. So if anybody out there wants to know about that, hit up my friend Liz. She's on my friends list, and she'll tell you all about it. Sounds like an awful lot of fun, but yeah, I am just a little too far away from it now. Sorry. Are you going? Long ride from D.C. Not as long as from North Carolina, but hey, it might be worth it. It might be fun. Oh, I forgot to mention that I am going to the Danbury Record and CD Expo May 17th. Danbury's premier and longest running record show. I co-promote it. I will have several tables of classy records, tapes, and CDs and TPOS stuff. And I'm driving all the way up for that. So May 17th, Danbury, me, Danbury Record and CD Expo at the VFW Hall in Danbury. I'm not going to miss it. You shouldn't miss it. Let's talk about some cool stuff that's come my way. Because when you're going to talk tunes, you got to talk about the tunes. You people have heard me go on and on and on and on about song poems, the extremely bizarre and wonderful world of song poems. Song poems, aka song sharking, aka send us your poems and we'll set them to music for an exorbitant fee, whatever you want to call it. Quite a lot of airtime has been devoted to song poems here on Tent Talks Tunes. And as I've mentioned a few times, the acknowledged king of the song poem musicians was a guy named Rod Keefe, aka Rod Rogers, aka John Doe, aka who even knows what. The guy he operated under many pseudonyms. Basically, Rod Keefe and or Rod Rogers. This dude was an acknowledged musical genius. He just had this talent for composing and arranging melodies in his head live on the spot, which enabled him to just crank out these song poem records, all of which have a real bizarre charm to them. Something I never knew about Rod Keefe, aka Rod Rogers, was he had a couple of brief brushes with actual mainstream music making. That is to say, songs written and released on regular labels that were not song poem labels. He probably, nobody really knows for sure, but Rod Rogers, aka Rod Keefe, probably cranked out over 1,000 song poems during his career for a number of different labels. But as far as I know, there's only 2, maybe 3 Rod Rogers songwriting or arranging or producing credits that are not on song poem records. And that's a really interesting thought. I wonder why that is. Why is it that he, who is so talented and by most accounts really didn't enjoy the song poem racket, how come he never did more in the regular music industry? one of the many, many imponderables and mysteries about that guy's life. Someone needs to write a book about that guy. I'm lobbying right now. I'm sending it out into the universe for somebody to write a book about Rod Rogers, also known as Rod Keith, because that would be a fascinating read. To you, Rod. And maybe you could answer the question, why is this one of only, not even a handful, but a pinch of vinyl with his name on it that's not a song poem record? I never even knew that this existed, but this is a genuine 45 RPM single by a group called Silk and Sand. This is a promo copy. As you can see, it's the A side. And there's the B side. Now, is he credited as Rod Rogers or Rod Keith on it? He's credited as Rod Keith on this one as a songwriter. Only on the A side. But apparently Silk and Sand were a couple of song poem alum, including Rod, who took a stab at putting together a band. They called it Silk and Sand, and they got one 45 RPM single out on Epic Records. Epic, of course, being a subsidiary of Columbia CBS. And that's about as mainstream and above ground as you can possibly get. 145 on Epic. And it came and it went. And most people don't even know it exists. I never knew it existed until very recently. Luckily, it seems like there's plenty of copies out there. I was able to get not one, not two, but 3 copies. One of these will be in my personal collection. The other 2 will be offered for sale. Because, you know, here there's always an ulterior motive, and that's the almighty dollar. At least I'm honest and upfront about it. This is the lifestyle of accustomed deleting. This is how I make my money. Selling records, including records by Gary Forney. Gary from Iowa's tuned in. Hello, Gary. Gary is a very patient man. Gary has been very, very patiently, I keep stressing that word, patiently, waiting for me to release the new album of studio recordings by his band Punkin. It's going to happen, Gary. It is happening, as you should know and everybody else should know. The wheels turn kind of slowly here at TPOS HQ. I'm a one-man operation. I've always got 14 things on 12 different plates happening. I've got stuff on the front burner and the back burner and spilling over into the floor and in the oven and in the cupboards. I am anything but an idle dude. So it takes a while to get things out. But an actual all new, to us anyway, full-length collection of studio recordings by Punkin, which is Gary Forney's band. And as always, I invite you guys to check out the music of Gary Forney. 3 albums of which I have released on TPOS. The easiest way to do that is to go onto the TPOS Bandcamp, where you can sample the stuff, hear it for yourself, read a little biography about Gary, and discover the joys of his music yourself. So yes, Gary raises the valid point that Rod Keith's son Ellery Eskelin, because Rod's given name was Rodney Keith Eskelin, that Ellery Eskelin is a jazz musician, and a most respected and renowned jazz musician, and his daughter Stacy spent many years as an international men's magazine model. And she wrote a fantastic book about her experiences as a nude model. What is the name of it? I actually had a copy of it in my hands yesterday, and I don't remember the name of it. But apparently her name as a model was Dakota Floyd. Dakota Floyd. And she was in many, many, many magazines on the covers and in the interiors. And she was Rod Keith's daughter. Go figure. I bought the book because I was hoping to try to glean some information about the mysterious and enigmatic Rod Rogers, but Apparently, old Rod was a bit of a bum when it came to raising his children. He ran out on Ellery Eskelin, and Ellery's mom, when Ellery was but an infant, married another woman, and guess what? Ran out on her and their daughter Stacy when she was an infant. So Rod Rogers was definitely a deadbeat and a bum, but very consistent. Got to admit he was consistent. He'd father him and then he would split. Not once, but twice. Mm-mm-mm. Anyway, his book, her book, Stacy Keith's book, is fantastic. Great read. Highly recommended. What else have I found in the wild? I found some really cool records at a thrift shop recently. If any of you people are like me and you go to a lot of thrift shops and flea markets and record stores and tag sales and all that, you know you've got the fever to dig. Dig, 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 dig. And you have to dig through a lot of rubble to find the occasional nugget. But we live for that moment when the nugget comes to the surface. Doesn't happen too often, but it happens often enough to keep us doing it. I'm telling you. I'm rendered pre-verbal at the very thought of it. I'm one of those guys who has an extremely hard time driving past a thrift shop. If a thrift shop is revealed in the corner of my eye, and I have even just a few spare minutes, I'm going to stop in there and take a look around. That's just the way it is. I have a very hard time driving past a thrift shop. And if it turns out that I'm in a circumstance where I can't stop at the thrift shop because I'm on a deadline or something, oh, I hate to see it in my rearview mirror. I hate to see it go by because you never know what's inside that thrift shop. Oh, God. Of course, most times I walk out of the thrift shop empty-handed. But sometimes, every once in a while, I come across a stack of cool records, or even just one cool record. In this case, it was something that I've never seen before. If you go into 78s, and I just gave it away, didn't I? If you go to flea markets and thrift shops, you always see tons of 78s, the old 78 RPM shellac records. And an easy 9,999 out of 10,000 are Bing Crosby, Glenn Miller, Bob Crosby, Bix Beiderbecke, Benny Goodman, Caruso, Doris Day. I just like the corniest, schmaltziest 50s, 40s, 30s pop music you can imagine. Guy Lombardo. You guys know what I'm talking about. We're talking about some real corny, straight off the cob, so-called music. Music that has not aged well at all. Music that has not stood the test of time. Big bands, male pop vocalists, female pop vocalists, stuff like that. There are millions and millions and millions of those darn things out there. Millions of them. But if you're a fanatic collector and there's a stack of them sitting right in front of you, you gotta look through them because you never know. You never know. And in this case, the whole "ya never know" paid off. Because I walked into this thrift shop and there was the stack of 78s. I started digging. Gary Forney wants to know, what's that rattle? I don't know. What rattle are you talking about, sir? I don't hear a rattle. If there's a rattle, I don't know. Does anybody else hear a rattle? Like a baby rattle? Like a death rattle? Like a rattlesnake? What's going on? I don't know what's up with the rattle. Someone help me. Anyway, I found Okay, a bunch of people say there's a rattle. What kind of rattle are you guys talking about? I don't hear any rattle at all. But you know what? I think I know what you're talking about. It's probably the camera. It is most likely the camera I have, which has an autofocus. And as I recall, every time that the stupid camera does an autofocus thing, it rattles. What do you guys think? Is this going to make it rattle? Is it a constant noise? Does it come and go? Okay, Greg from Connecticut says it just stopped. Brian from Roanoke says that it stopped. Okay, maybe just needed that readjustment with the focus. The universal opinion is that the rattling has stopped. Okay, there you go. This old dog does know a trick or two about making technology behave itself. So anyway, a big old stack of 78s, and what do you know, it wasn't the usual big band swing jive ass turkey that it usually is. This had some really cool, check this out guys, from 1924, the great Bessie Smith, Boll Weevil Blues on one side and Moonshine Blues on the other side. That's the real deal, man. Y'all can have all the Janis Joplin you want with her shrieking and screeching and atonal bellowing. But Janis always said that Bessie Smith was the real deal. And I have to agree, man. Boll Weevil Blues back with Moonshine Blues on an original 1924 shellac disc. My God, that's cool. That kind of redeems the 48,000 Glenn Miller 78s I've had to look at in my life. What else did we find? This one just looked really cool. This is a hillbilly record on the Columbia label. See, it's getting kind of dark in here, so all right, now Brian says the clam sound is back, probably when I focused the record in. So I'm going to focus the record in real close. And let's see if that doesn't help correct the stupid situation. The gospel train is leaving. From, I believe, 1928. Pre-Depression. Who is the artist on this? I can't really read this because it's getting kind of dark here in the studio. The lighting situation is really weird, so I have to use artificial lighting to see who the artist is on this. Aren't you guys glad you're watching this live? Ah, the Reverend J.C. Burnett. The Gospel Train is Leaving. That is such an evocative song title. Haven't heard it yet, but I'm really excited to play it. Another one. Another super duper vintage 78. Which, once again, looking at all those stupid Bing Crosby and Bob Crosby records, it's worth it to find records like this. Riley Puckett. A double A-side record. One song answers the other. On one side, you've got When I'm Gone, You'll Soon Forget. On the other side, When You're Gone, I Won't Forget. Ooh, that's a hurtin' set of songs. Ooh, Riley Puckett. Original 1920s Columbia. This one made me really happy. I found a pretty fair number of 78s in this one stash. Mostly hillbilly, some blues, but the gem of them all, this was the photo that I posted earlier today when I was hyping this thing. One of Charlotte, North Carolina's kid show TV heroes back in the 50s and 60s, and I think all the way up into the 70s, was a guy named Fred Kirby Fred Kirby was one of the singing cowboys of kids' TV way, way back in the 20th century. And he apparently wrote, make sure I got this right here, yes, he wrote this song. And anytime I see a record from this era with this title like Atomic Power, I know it's going to be good. I know it's going to be good. And sure enough, there it is. Fred Kirby from Charlotte, North Carolina doing Atomic Power. And I knew of this song because I had a 78 of it by, I believe, Tex Ritter. Don't quote me on that, but I think Tex Ritter did a cover version of it. And that cover version's pretty cool, even though it's like more of like a Nashville mainstream sound from the 1950s. The Fred Kirby version is like more of an authentic string band sound to it. It sounds like it was acoustically recorded. It has like authentic hillbilly folk instrumentation, and his voice is fantastic. And man, it's like listening to transmissions from a whole different universe when you put that 78 RPM record on a 78 RPM record player and listen to the hiss of when the needle drops in the groove, and the old scratches and the old static and those old faraway voices that were recorded probably with a giant metal horn going into a needle, etching the sound on the grooves of a record. They just don't make them like that. They haven't made them like that in a very, very long time. So it kind of casts a spell of just wonderful old-time sound when you play a record like that. And the fact that it's a Charlotte guy, Fred Kirby, and guess what? Anti-Scene do a song about him on their Dying Breed record. Just kind of like, as Bob Dylan would say, brings it all back home. Amen, and a drink of Newton Tap to Fred Kirby. Found another one. I'm unrepentant about this. I don't care if... I think anybody who wants to get a chuckle out of this one is certainly welcome to. But I'll bet there's a few of you out there who will relate to this. One of my favorite albums when I was in 7th grade. Going into 8th grade. An album that got lots of play on my Radio Shack record player. Even now, I'll put it on every once in a while, and I'll listen to it, and I'll get a bit of a smile on my face. Excuse me. Sometimes a grin. I don't play air guitar along with it anymore like I used to, but I will get a smile whenever I put on Foghat Live. These guys put so much conviction and so much gusto into a song like Fool for the City. I'm a fool for the city. I'm a fool for the city. When you hear these guys sing and play that song, you really believe that Foghat are fools for the city. They drive that point home. Foghat are fools for the city. Foghat have road fever. Foghat want to take you on a slow ride. Take it easy. Oh, they mean it. They mean it. Come on, who doesn't love it? Can I get an amen on that one? Brian Russell says, lots of fools in the city. Haha, no argument here. Gary Forney says that he saw Foghat in the early 70s. Gary Forney, how was it? Was it godly? Was it godlike? Was it Godhead? Or was it god-awful? Please tell us, Gary. We want to know. I also found a copy of Foghat's follow-up album, Stone Blue. I did not get this one when it first came out. In fact, I never got it until a couple weeks ago. This one went straight to the cutout bins. I don't know why. They were not able to capitalize on the success of Foghat Live. But here it is, Stone Blue. And one of these days, I am going to work up the nerve to play it. Promise. And when that happens, you can expect a full report, critique, and analysis of Foghat Stone Blue right here on Tent Talks Tunes. Like it or not. I'm just fumbling for my props, guys. Ignore me. Gary Forney says he used to smoke at concerts, so the memories of Foghat are non-existent. Okay, done. Erica Cucciare says that Chevrolet is a great tune. That, you know, I kind of know that song. Is that on Stone Blue? Hold on a second. That does sound familiar. I have to reach all the way over to the rubbish heap and pick this thing up off the floor. Chevrolet by Foghat. It is on this record. You know what? I've heard that song. I have heard that song, and I don't think it's too bad either. Interesting. The thrill of discovery continues here on Tent Talks Tunes. So, I promised. I mean, I didn't promise. I did say something about a deep dive about an album that nobody likes. I'm not going to do the deep dive thing here. I'm going to leave that to the authors of this book. Check this out. First, look at the thickness and the heft of this book. Look at all the pages in this book. Look at all them pages. Check it out. You can hear it. It's a heavy book. Heavy in weight. It's an entire book about The Elder by Kiss. Oh, yeah. See, you want to know how Malcolm Tent rolls? This is how Malcolm Tent rolls. This guy will read from front cover to back cover every single page in this book about the Kiss album that nobody likes. The Elder by Kiss. It's a pretty darn good book, you know? And this is the kind of history I love because, okay, you know, take an album like Kiss Destroyer, for example. That album's been analyzed, reviewed, dissected, sliced, diced, examined under a microscope, remixed, remastered, you know, whatever. It's got Beth, it's got Detroit Rock City, it's got Do You Love Me, you know. That record has been done to death. Nobody has ever done anything about The Elder because nobody likes that record. But the thing is, The Elder is no different than any other album by Kiss or any other band for that matter. There's a story behind it. There's a complete process. There was a creative process. There was a production process. There was a promotion process. Everything that goes with the making of an album went into the making of Elder. But since it didn't sell 1 million copies, and since it didn't sell 1 million copies, it was completely disowned. Nobody wants to talk about it. It's been swept under the rug. Gene and Paul say it was the biggest mistake they ever made. You know, Ace hated it. Eric Carr was just kind of along for the ride, but apparently didn't like it that much. Everybody just ignores all the stories and all the creativity and all the blood, sweat, and tears that made it into the album that it was. Whether you like the record or not, there's a story there. There's a lot of stories. There's a lot of history there. And I'm a history buff. I love history. And it really bugs me when history is swept under the rug or dismissed or given short shrift or ignored. I believe all history is important. And a lot of times it's the unknown history or the history that people aren't interested in that is the most interesting. It's kind of like having access to some secret information. You know, you're not going to talk to your average Kiss fan And when I say average, I mean just average Kiss fan, just run-of-the-mill, average person who likes Kiss, who, if they even know that the Elder exists, don't know anything about it. It's a shame, because they're missing out on a very interesting piece of history. And never mind the history, what about the record itself? What about the record itself? I'll tell you. The record, as it was released originally in 1981, is really hard to listen to. It's not sequenced very well. For a record that supposedly tells a story, you can't figure out what the hell's going on with it because there's no continuity. It turns out that the original track order, which was very painstakingly put together by Bob Ezrin, who produced it, and the band, the track order was completely scrambled up by the record company because they wanted strong rockers to open up the album, and they wanted the hit single to open up the other side of the record. So they just took this running order of songs, which had a definite logic and a flow to it, and just tore it into little tiny pieces and rearranged it. And it really, really messed with the ability to enjoy the record as a whole. They completely ruined it, as record companies do. But there was a version, I think, that came out in Japan that had the original running order restored the way that it was meant to be listened to. And I'm not kidding, guys. It makes a world of difference, a universe of difference. All of a sudden, you've got more of a cohesive storyline, and you've got songs that flow seamlessly from one to the other. The only break, of course, being between side 1 and side 2. There's two distinctly different moods between side 1 and side 2. Side 1 is huge and epic and orchestral and lush and more ballad driven. Side 2 is more of a rocker, a little more experimental. It's just got a different feel to it, but it makes so much more sense. And I will go on record saying that there's one song on this album that's got some of the best orchestration that Bob Ezrin ever did. Now you got to remember, Bob Ezrin was the producer and orchestrator for The Wall by Pink Floyd. He did the classic original Alice Cooper group albums, tons of other records. Orchestration was a strong suit of his. The orchestral score he came up with for the song called Odyssey on The Elder, which you'll notice, by the way, is title of the book. That is some of the best orchestration Bob Ezrin ever did. Goosebump City. Nothing short of drop-dead gorgeous orchestral music. 76-piece orchestra. How do I know that? I read the book. It's great. So I'm definitely reassessing The Elder and reappraising it. And I've listened to it twice over the past couple of nights. I might listen to it again tonight. And I would never have listened to The Elder before. But that's another side benefit of reading books like that, is that it gives you an appreciation for music or art or history that maybe you just didn't have an appreciation for. So that's good. It's always good to broaden one's horizons. One piece of art I have no appreciation for whatsoever is this god-awful, let's see if I can get a non-glare version of this god-awful picture of Ace Frehley on the back of the Frehley's Comet Live +1 album. Someone needs to write a book about the politicking that went behind the use of that photo on the back of that album. Because you've got three, kind of standard rock and roll live portraits on the back. And then this one where Ace Frehley looks like a beached flounder flopping around on the sand. Why? Now, one clue is that the photo was taken by Lydia Criss. Lydia Criss, ex-wife of Peter Criss. And Lydia was apparently pretty handy with a camera. But for some reason, she has her only photo credit on this album is that picture. And man, that picture is ghastly. I would just love to know the story behind that. Okay, Gary Forney says I'm rattling again. Does the palm make it stop? Let's find out. We just forced the focus. Am I rattling now? Has the rattling stopped? Somebody please comment and let me know. And all you people watching this on my YouTube permanently archived channel, sorry, but that's what you get when you go live. You get the excitement of never knowing what the F is going on, and efforts, live and in person, to solve the problem. Okay, Gary says that the rattling stopped. Apparently the problem comes if I put things too close to the lens. So I'm going to remember that in the future, guys. I'm not going to get too close to the lens. I'm just going to show things back here and try to avoid close-ups. That is a Tent Talks Tunes promise and guarantee. So that's it. I'm done. I would like to thank everybody for tuning in. Wait, there's a question from Rock and Roll Apprentice. Who are my inspirations? To make a very, very long list kind of short, if you're talking about musical inspirations, who inspires me musically? Devo, Black Flag, Ramones, Kiss, Velvet Underground, Killing Joke, The Doors, Beatles, Stones, Husker Du, Lamont Young, Shostakovich. That's probably about it. And that excludes any and all bands that I'm a member of or have been a member of, because that ain't playing fair. So yes, those are the people who have inspired me musically. I also always give a big shout out to Libby Bentley, the bass player for Morbid Opera, and Tom Monahan, the bass player for Monsterland, because bass guitar is my weapon of choice, and both Libby and Tom had technique that really inspired me and helped shape my current sound. And Mike Lesser wants to know about Pete E. Whistle. I know who you're talking about, Mike. Believe it or not, no, John Entwistle is not an inspiration to me because his bass playing style is diametrically opposed to my bass playing style. John Entwistle is a man of many, 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 many notes. I'm a man who believes that you can say more with one note than you can say with 10, as long as you place it properly and you squeeze everything that's squeezable out of it and get what it's worth. And that's definitely a Lamont Young, Velvet Underground thing, 100%. So there you go, a very quick summation of some of my musical inspirations. Thanks for asking. At any rate, I'm out of here. I do hope to be back in about 167 hours' time. Until we meet again, this is Malcontent saying so long from the Tar Heel State.